Good morning, everyone. We're going to get the meeting started because we have a couple items that we need to add to the agenda that have come up since the agenda was originally sent out. So first thing I'll do is turn the meeting over to Sue to do roll call. I would ask at the, I'm going to say at the direction of our chairman of our Health and Safety Committee, Shirley Bardell, that if you are going to pass a mic, that you use the handy wipes in front of you. As we go to Good and Welfare, I will ask Christine to make sure that she wipes the standing mic off after each person uses it. And I did tell Christine I'm not sharing my mic, so I'm not wiping anything off. So, Sue, you go ahead and do roll call.
Good morning. President Davidson.
Present.
Vice President Ricketts. Secretary Martucci, present. Treasurer Gundry.
Present.
Director Bardell.
Present.
Director Hector. Director Martin. Oh, sorry, not this one, that's you now. Director Ryan.
Present.
Director Shaw.
Present.
You have a quorum, you may begin.
Thank you, and I will call the meeting to order, and I will ask, stand for pledge of allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Right. Whoa. Without objection from the board, I would like to add a couple items to the agenda. One is the purchase of the new tram, which Ginger will be presenting. The second one is the use of any excess of funds that we have to repair the fire alarm panel that was struck or hit by lightning. And the third one is we have a request from Brown's Tree to use a subcontractor to do the fertilization. Is there any objection to add those items to the board agenda? Hearing none, then we will add them to the agenda. First item on the agenda is the approval of the July 1st draft minutes for the board. Can I have a motion for approval? Thank you. Thank you, Jim. Any discussions? All in favor of approving the minutes, say aye. Opposed? Then the minutes for the July 1st meeting are approved. And with that, I will turn the meeting over to, I almost said Keith, I apologize, to Steve Knott to give the First Service Management report.
Thank you, Mr. President. The financial statements and reports continue to be completed and delivered accurately and in a timely manner, no later than the 21st of the succeeding month. The year-end financial report postcard notice was mailed to all residents. You should have received the blue postcard, indicating that financial statements dated 3/31/22 are available within each community website, or a copy can be requested from the First Service office. Also, the CRDR report, the cash receipts and disbursements for each association, are now available for resident viewing within your community website. I do want to mention that Page CPA, who prepares those reports, took a cost increase of $25 this year to $100 per report. That is still a substantial discount to their single site rate of $300. So if you had to do that on your own. For an individual association, it would be $300. Operationally, I had a chance to meet many of the residents in the month of July. I held 9 meetings attended by association officers to gather feedback on personnel and how First Service Residential can better serve the residents. Monthly payments, they can be dropped off at First Service Dropbox in front of the 1904 office. Any resident who needs assistance in signing up for Click Pay, the auto pay option, please contact Susan Greenup in our office. Resident assistance for any residents who would like help with registration and log into their community website and or use of the Connect system, please call your CAM. They will be happy to assist you. And all residents, please ensure your contact information is updated. If you need to update emails, phone numbers, etc., please do so through your community website, or you can call our front desk and we will be happy to assist in your information updates. Administratively, the data reports compare our July numbers to June, and I'll read through those very quickly. Our transfer applications numbered 41, which was down 19 from June. We hit the dog days. Everything is down in July. It was a pretty slow month. Lease applications were down 3 from June. Information and document requests were down 11. Phone calls taken were down 629, although it never seems that way. Walk-ins were down 98. Orientations down 24. Pest control appointments were down 37. A lot of pests, or fewer pests, let's just say. Emergency contact forms, there we go, up 4. So if you want to update your emergency contact form, as I mentioned, please contact our office. It's always a good idea to have those updated. Alteration forms submitted were down 18. Violations were down by 8. Invoices, we processed 61 fewer invoices than in June. And we drew up the same number of contracts, which were a dozen. Pest control appointments can be scheduled by calling the office. Currently, we are still inside the 3-day appointment requirement and are adding more technicians to the schedule when demand is needed. Insurance. I'm not going to go down that aspect of insurance. This is going to be a painless one. Insurance policies have been uploaded to each participating association's Connect account. Now is a good time for unit owners with HO6 policies or homeowners, which we do have some, with HO3 policies to review them with their personal insurance advisor to evaluate hurricane loss assessment coverage. If you have any questions regarding the hurricane deductible for your association, please talk with your president or CAM. We are in hurricane season, and the Kings Point Disaster Planning Committee has posted hurricane preparedness information that is important to every resident on the community websites, including kpscc.com. The First Service Residential Hurricane Plan for 2022, along with the Heritage USI Insurance Disaster Preparedness Guide, are posted and hard copies are available from the office. Moving on to landscaping, everyone's favorite topic. Please funnel all landscape and tree or palm requests to your association's landscape point of contact. The POCs will then place a work order with us so that we can track and keep the landscapers to a 3-day or a 5-day, at the latest, performance window within that work order. Grading inspections. The July grading report meeting took place Wednesday, July 27th. All 4 landscapers were reviewed by First Service and OLM, and the reports were given to the Federation Board and the Landscape Oversight Committee. The July grading and score sheets are uploaded on kpscc.com under the Landscape tab. You can also find your schedule for August for palm and hardwood tree maintenance. Brown's Trees Service will be performing deadwood clean out and elevation maintenance in section 3 this month. That's Princeton, Manchester's, Nantucket's, Oxford's, Radisson's, Southampton's, Tremont's, and Villeroy. Landscaping schedule by property is also under the landscape tab, and the August schedules are posted. Work orders for landscapes in the month of July were 67 versus 61 in June, so they were up slightly. And the average days to close out a work order increased from 3.1 to 5.2 days, so it took 2 days longer, right at that 5-day window. Weather was a big factor in that this month. Again, I interrupted by some weather. We being First Service, have done some work to prepare the mulch contract that is on the agenda later on. And we are actively still facilitating the Spectrum bulk contract renewal. And that is my report.
It's quite evident from your report that the snowbirds have left. You wonder why all these are down. That is the impact of the snowbirds being here, and I appreciate you showing them in the summertime. Although it's not a drastic reduction, there is a reduction in the ins and outs of First Service. It just shows the evidence, and I appreciate you showing them up and down instead of just giving us the figures.
My pleasure. Insights are what's important to gain from data, so we have to have meaningful comparison points.
And I'll turn the meeting over to Ginger, who will wipe her mic.
Can't help my wife. Good morning, everybody. Along with what Steve was talking about, I won't read all these numbers, but it is typical summer activity. We can't quantify the number of snowbirds. We've always used kind of this nebulous 30%. And there's plenty of you all out there living year-round, and we understand that the snowbirds, when they come down, happen to be in our side of the business very active participants in the trust operations. So that's what drives a lot of our increases during the season. But again, you can just look at fitness and spa and salon, food and beverage, and see those very typical. I'm not going to point out, hey, we've got some record-breaking numbers just because it is for July. Even down there in Portico, we've declined from 12% to 11 down into the 10. So it's just all part of the story of the season. On the project, I will speak later about the tram, but I wanted to note for the board, it is a 2021. I put 2023 replacement unit that has been proposed. We'll talk about that later. Jack asked me to hold off until later in the meeting, but that is a 2021 unit. My apologies. On this doggone 25-ton HVAC unit, fortunately, the South Club unit is still operational. This was a budgeted replacement due to age and the extended time for delivery of this. Between manufacturer delays and shipping, we have talked to the board about switching gears and potentially putting 2 smaller units, possibly 2 10-ton units, and see if that will work. This unit serves conditioned air to 2 separate areas of the South Club with very different temperature needs. One area is office environment, the other is the kitchen and where they've got stoves and things like that. So usually somebody's freezing and somebody's hot. So the 2 might overall be a better plan, but we'll keep you updated on that as we go. On the South Club pool deck expansion project, Victoria met with the Site Development Division of the Hillsborough County Permitting Department this week, along with the engineer and the contractor, and they have completed all the pre-submittal requirements, and all department heads have been approved. They have been advised of our discontent that this has taken since November application, but they have assured us that we are able to, with everything T's crossed and I's dotted, move to the final review, which will result in the issuance of the required permit. So we may proceed with renovation. So I hope the next time I talk to you, we can say, yay, we got our permit and we can move forward. Just in all my time of doing projects, never seen anything like it. So it's been very frustrating for us, and we know it is for you all too. On the phase 1.5, we have a vendor for this phase. We're working out the logistics to bring the earthwork and other aspects of this phase of the project to start. And this phase does include the conduit layout for the sound system, which the ad hoc committee is working on. Ideally, we'd like that plan finalized prior to commencement so we can make that groundwork as efficient as, earthwork as efficient as possible. Phase 2, we've got the outdoor pool and spa resurfacing that is underway. We are continuing the RFP process for the other areas, such as the shade structures, the pool furniture, and landscaping to better evaluate the upcoming costs for those, because what we had budgeted for those long ago don't take into account the issues we're facing today. And then finally on phase 3, that has to do again with the sound system for the entertainment area to be determined as soon as the ad hoc comes up with the final recommendations to the board. We'll talk about that and decide if that's what the board wants to do or not. On the South Club Palm Court tile replacement, this is underway. As you all know, the project was delayed due to moisture that was found in the wood under the bar from a leak. Had to be delayed. We had to bring in mold people to do the testing. There was no mold. We were very fortunate, so they were able to begin reassembling the whole bar and get the top on. Was the top put back on? No. Monday. Top goes back on Monday, and then they'll finish up the flooring, and we'll get going on that. The roof coating's going along fabulous. It has no impact to resident usage, but that is on the main clubhouse here. And on the renovation project, you may have seen in the lobby, they've moved over. They've got a lot of that all cordoned off and plasticed up. The LaPerk remains open at the current time. So they're beginning the demo of the next phase of that project, which includes the lobby bathroom entrances, the west entrance to the banquet room, the east entrance to the theater, and a large portion of the lobby. Special events, I won't read through all these, but our summer series, winter series, brochures are out there. We've got the next concert for a cause, which will be August 19th in the Veterans Theater. That is in coordination with the COA, the Master, and the Federation Board. It is a free concert, and any donations will go towards hosting an Employee Appreciation Day for the management teams that serve the Kings Point community, planned for September 8th. Very nice thing they're all doing, something that's never been done, and we appreciate that. We've got a number of new services out there, but one exciting one, maybe for some people, is the Erasable Med Spa will be offering Botox services in Kings Point. If you're around long enough, you'll see just about everything coming through. Never would have dreamed that. Botox educational event will be on Wednesday, August 31st. Also, a new offering At Your Door, which is a visiting healthcare seminar. They'll have bagels and coffee, and if you are interested, perhaps because you need medical care in your home, this might be a nice seminar for you to attend on Wednesday, August 10th. And then the podiatry, the on-spot dermatology, the mobile mammograms, et cetera, will continue. So all that is new offerings with Matt and his special event coordination team that are bringing in services to the Kings Point community. Finally, in security, a couple notables here. Security received a call from a resident who was tending to their garden plot, and upon leaving, their golf cart was gone. So while they were still on the phone with security reporting the theft, the embarrassed driver who had taken their cart arrived. 2 days later, another call came to the gate and informed security that their golf cart was missing, and security was able to track the location of the missing golf cart with the help of the unintentional perpetrator who had taken it from the clubhouse. Both incidents involve different drivers making these poor decisions. So as a reminder, please check to make sure you're getting in your golf cart before you drive it away. This actually, Jeff, happens a lot, yes. They get the call, sometimes people figure it out. Golf carts often look the same. I know we've had them come in and they want to file a claim that their golf clubs have been stolen, and then somebody comes back and, you know. So it's easy to mistake, but it's in the news. Security would also like to advise all residents and visitors to please use caution driving during our severe thunderstorms. You know, we've been pretty fortunate so far, but we are entering this period with hurricane season, and especially exiting and entering during high winds and heavy rain through the back gate. Fallen trees block both lanes on 36th Street just outside the gate, which resulted in no entry or exit twice in 1 week in the past month. Unfortunately, one vehicle did attempt to exit despite the warnings, and he promptly landed in the ditch. The tow truck driver came out and, due to best practices, informed the driver that the stuck car could not be sucked back out of the water and mud until the water receded, and his car had to sit there for 2 days. So do be careful out there, and that's my report.
Thank you, Ginger. We will, Dan, I'm going to ask you to hold off for a minute until after we do the committee reports, and I have a reason for that. Joe, see you in a moment. Vicki, anything to report?
Meeting on Monday. That's it. There's nothing meeting on Monday. So no more.
Right?
The insurance committee started to work on the renewal for April. We've had a meeting with USI and with the committee. We are now in the process of hiring a company to create the new values for Kings Point for purposes of insurance. That is a requirement by state law. And that's pretty much what we're doing at this point. Unless I left something wrong. I don't think so.
You want to discuss cost, or you want me to?
I'm not sure of the exact cost, to be honest with you. I can tell you, we looked at 3 companies. I know we have contacted at least 2 at this point. One of them, which we've never used, would be well over $100,000 for the appraisal. It's probably $1,500 per association. I have suggested, and I'm sure we'll be in agreement, that we are going to use the one that we've used in the past, because the cost is roughly $26,000. And the difference is they don't have to do as many things as a new company would have to do. So the cost for this appraisal will be like between $26,000 and $27,000 instead of $100,000 to $200,000.
When you say over 100, just so the residents know, the cost that Drew Isaac gave us to do a reevaluation, which we have to do, is around $26,000. But it eliminates or doesn't have included 2 associations, which we're investigating why those 2 associations weren't done. I believe the other one's Fenton Associates, is that their name? Close to it? Felton. They were at $70 per building, and their quote to do the assessment was $176,000. So it's quite obvious why we would go back to Drew Isaac, who did and has done the evaluation in this community for years. They have done just updating of the evaluations, not truly doing a reevaluation, which is required this year by our insurance carrier. Any insurance carrier is going to want to update evaluations. There's a big difference around $150,000. USI was right on and said it'd be about $1,500 per association on average to do it. So I appreciate the work, Ray, that you are doing on this, and I know that insurance is not going to be our favorite subject when budget rolls around, with insurance rates going up and then the new evaluation, which they're expecting the community to be valued at about $1 billion, because right now it's sitting at a little over 850 million. So we can expect, last year we had a 17% increase in insurance, and this year we're probably looking at about the same thing. So it's going to be rather expensive to continue to insure the community, but we have no other choice to do it but try and realize and prepare your residents that insurance is going to go up no matter what we do. We can't control the insurance marketplace.
For what it's worth, and these are not firm numbers, I have been told that we can expect that our community will go up in value somewhere between 12 and 15%, which means the insurance cost, if the rate stays exactly the same, will go up between 12 and 15%. I think everybody in this room has seen increases for the policies that you buy individually for your unit. On top of that, we have, if not the lowest rate for condominiums in the state, pretty darn close to it. And that rate may go up to some degree. With all that said, I've been told that there are only 4 companies at the most that would consider looking at Kings Point. And none of them are A-rated except the one we are with currently. And we really need to keep an A-rated carrier so that people who have loans with Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac can keep their loan in good shape without having to go to forced placement, which would be incredibly expensive. So we're doing everything we can, but you can expect it will go up. I wish it wouldn't, but it will.
Okay. Oh, he has it, good. Shirley.
Thanks for understanding about wiping out the mics. The problem is that Hillsborough County, as well as the whole state of Florida, is now in the highest category possible for COVID transmission. So that we're concerned that the mics could cause that. The other thing is, I'm on the contract committee, and it's in here, but just suffice to say that the Spectrum contract is underway, but has not been approved yet, and we'll keep you posted on that.
Thank you. Sue, you have nothing, right? And I'm going to ask you to hold off on your treasurer's report. Mainly, basically, only for the individual's understanding. I'm going to do the election results for District 1 before we get into the treasurer's report and before we get into the land trust report. So that individual will be able to have it going forward and also be able to go through it. The notice was sent out to replace Ray Hunsaker. 4 nominations for an election to fill the remaining term of Ray Hunsaker. We received 1 individual who volunteered and nominated himself to serve on the board from Bedford G, which is in District 1. His name is Randy Martin. And Randy, I know you're here. If you want to join us at the head table as the newest board director, we would appreciate it because we have a lot of financial stuff to go over. That's why I wanted to do this before Dan did it. Give you a little education on the land trust financials and also from Jim's financials. Yeah, be careful because you're sitting in his right hand and it does fly out at anything.
Trust me, it flies out a lot.
So Jim, now you know I asked you to delay your treasurer's report because this way Randy's here and can go over the treasurer's report with you.
Write me down.
Morning, everyone. As you know, I took over as treasurer about a month ago. And this is going to be a very short report for the first quarter of the fiscal year, which of course started April the 1st. What you have in front of you is, of course, the current assets and the liabilities. I'm still verifying some of this stuff, but these are accurate from what I can determine. On your next page, got some explaining on this so you understand, especially for the new board members. We're showing budgeted assessments which have a fiscal year budget of $43,092. This is based on the 65 cents per unit assessment that was approved by the membership for the budget for this year. And this is 65 cents per door per month. That's why your actual year-to-date is what it is. So we are showing an unfavorable balance, but just strictly on paper, of the 32,348. The transfer fees cannot be budgeted because, as Steve mentioned, they are up and down every month and everything else. And these are fees that are paid for sales of property, leases, etc., on transfer of ownership. So the actual is correct. Underneath, you'll see the general operating expenditures, the budget, and of course what has been sold, done year to date, which is the 3 months. Okay, the next page shows the budgeted funds and reserves. Now you'll see 3 things on here that are highlighted. These are restricted, which means they cannot be used unless the board approval. 2 of these are required by the administrative code to maintain. And of course, the grounds cleanup is, God forbid we do have a storm, we need to use some of this money. But these are restricted, it cannot be, they have to be approved by the board membership. Everything else is fine because we are, as you can see, we have very few disbursements for the first 3 months of the year. The last page, and I left something off and I apologize, but on the insurance explanation. But this shows exactly where these budgeted funds are and how they are done. And I mean, this is very, if you have any further questions, I can explain it to them, but I think this pretty much gives you an idea. Overall, we're in, for the first 3 months of the year, we're very good shape, so that's all I have.
Any questions to Jim on his report? Jim, I personally, and I know probably I speak for the entire board, want to thank you and Steve, if you would pass along also to members of your staff. Jim jumped into this the beginning of July and able to understand where it was going and getting the figures together. Jim, if your hair wasn't already white, it would be whiter. So I appreciate the effort that you have put forward in this. And when we go back to having membership meetings, which will be in September, I would only ask that you give the first quarter report at the first membership meeting in September. So, but I wanted to express my appreciation for all the effort you put in. I know you have other things to do for your association and on the CPC committee. So I appreciate that very much. And you deserve a great deal of gratitude for putting together what you did.
And I will say that Steve is tired of seeing me in his office. So, because I've been over there quite a lot lately, but I think everything is pretty well cleared.
So Dan, I will turn the meeting over to you to do the land trust financial report.
Should I ask Shirley that question? Yeah. Should we write these down as we go?
The package. All right, good morning. Again, you have a 8-page packet, sir.
Before you start, Dan, it is good to see you. It's been months since you have graced Kings Point with your presence. I hope your knee is doing fine, and I hope the other personal issues that you had to deal with your family. But welcome to Kings Point. I know it's a long drive from Jacksonville, so welcome back.
COVID finally got me, dang it. Thank you very much. Today we're going to talk about the first quarter of the fiscal year 22-23. That quarter ends June 30th, of course. You have before you an 8-page report. Those of you who have heard me, I'd like to generally first describe the page in hopes that it can help your eyes follow me as I dance around the page. The first 2 pages are statement of financial positions. The columns represent the most recent quarter end compared to the most recent year end, and a variance column. You'll hear me focus a lot on the variance column, both on the statement of financial position, otherwise known as the balance sheet, and the statement of cash activities, which is also known as a P&L or an income statement. Okay, so let's start with the first section, the subtotal right-hand column. You can see a negative number, $506,000 rounding. Do not worry, this is a decrease in cash, but it is not a problem. First of all, remember we budgeted for a quarterly reduction of $110,000, and the difference is just timing differences. I'll help explain. 505 minus 110 is about $400,000. The next section, the subtotal, right-hand column, has a 330 rounding differential. That is a use of cash. That is a asset section, so when you buy more assets, they go up by 330. You have spent your cash on those assets, but the money's not gone. The assets have value to you in the future. Now, if you go to the second half of the page, the first subtotal below the liabilities and net assets, right-hand column, you can see there's an $83,000 differential. That is your current liabilities. They have reduced by that amount. That means you have used cash also to reduce your liabilities period over period. So that is the explanation for the vast majority of that $500,000 cash differential. Remember, the timing of payments that you make to your vendors and things like your annual insurance policies are just timing differences. So it's not a bad thing that you plopped out, other than the fact that it costs too much. You plopped out $360,000 for your annual insurance policy. Remember, every April 30th, we renew the policy in cash to save about $15,000 of financing costs. So, going back up to that second section, you can see the fourth line, prepaids and other current assets. Look at the differential. That line item has been freshly renewed on April 30th, $360,000 policy. So that and the other policies that follow a slightly different fiscal year make up prepaids of almost $390,000 compared to the prior quarter in the middle column, which was much lower. Okay, so that's why cash differential is not a problem. Let's go on down the page, and I'll pick it up a little bit, I promise. The property and equipment section, there are no changes. Remember, we do not capitalize assets during the year, so that as those acquisitions, repairs, refurbishments are made, can be properly compared to budget on pages 3 through 8. Okay, we only capitalize them once a year at year end in conjunction with the auditors. So the only change in that section and the next section are the monthly periodic entries for amortization and depreciation. Those generally do not change during a year. They're the same amount each month, and therefore each quarter. So let's go down 80% down the page, long-term debt section. And just remind you that this represents the debt owed for the purchase of the facilities. There are 4 line items because of GAAP, which is generally accepted accounting principles, but mainly the one on the top row is the one that represents the amount outstanding, And in the variance column, you can see it goes down by $410,000, so we're paying that amount per quarter right now, and that's increasing as the amortization table goes further and further down. You have about 10 years right now on your current loan outstanding before the next refinance or payoff is necessary. Finally, the last section, total net assets, in the capital letters you can see, that, remember, is just representative of kind of like your retained earnings or your total net assets. This community has a negative number largely because of the amortization and depreciation expense. It is not cumulative net operating losses. It's all because of the nature of amortization and depreciation. All right? Now, let's go to page 2. And page 2 has a lot of information. I'm only going to describe it to you to remind you what this is. The front page is the consolidated financial position of the entire trust. This page represents the trust and the rec area security and transportation in separate columns with the combination column on the right-hand side. To combine them, you have to eliminate certain intercompany transactions, which is that next to last column on the right. So there's a lot of detail here, and we won't get into that unless you have a specific question, okay? Which I'm always willing to answer. Page 3 is the statement of cash activities, otherwise known as the income statement. Here, we have 3 columns also that is comparing the quarter to the quarter's budget. So April 1st through June 30th to that budget, and a variance column on the right-hand side. I'm going to try to resist the urge to talk about the individual variances on the consolidated page because they mean more in the department pages, the next 4. But at the revenues subtotal, that first big subtotal, right-hand side, you can see about $249,000 favorable to budget. That means more activity in the clubhouses for food and beverage, events, especially events, great job staff, than was budgeted.
Did you
have a question?
Did you misspeak? You said 249. It's
245 rounded. I sure did. Dang. I think my prescription is getting old. Which is really tragic to me.
I'm glad you said that, Ginger, because it was about ready to come out of my mouth. It's not the prescription, it's the eyes that are getting old.
The truth fits best, right? Anyway, so going on, people. So if you've got that much more revenue, obviously you're usually going to spend more expense to earn that much additional revenue. So if you look at the total operating expenses in the right-hand column, remember my focus, $136,000 rounded unfavorable to budget. All right, so we spent $136,000 more in expenses to bring $245,000 more of revenues. That's a positive exchange. That's really good. So there's obviously going to be a favorable variance on the subtotal, which is income / loss from variation operation. Okay, hold the jokes until the end. So we've got $109,000 positive variance, and then the only other changes in the last section is that there were one board-approved non-budgeted item, which of course doesn't have a budget since it's non-budgeted. So it's a negative variance of $12,000 and change, bringing us down to a quarterly change in net assets and the final subtotal, which is called net cash flow, the variance being about $98,000 rounded. That's a good quarter. We'd like to duplicate that all 4 quarters. Questions? You took a breath. Okay. The next page, page 4, at the bottom you can see the numbering system, by the way, is just the combining page. This is again listing the individual divisions out with an elimination column and a combined in the right-hand side. That right-hand side, by the way, agrees to the left-hand column of the prior page in each instance. A lot of details there, so we'll hold to go through them until you can compare them to budget, which makes it more meaningful. If you go to page 5 is the trust. So this is the entity as a whole with all the operations stripped out. It's just like a shell corporation or the parent company. Think of it. has very little variances to budget usually. This particular quarter, I'm happy to say that interest earnings, the last line in the revenue section, finally made budget for the first time in like 5 or 6 quarters. So rates are coming back, and of course, as time went by, during the budget process, we lowered our expectations. So we should well exceed interest earnings this year, knock on wood. That's good, even though it's very small dollars. It just has been a constant thorn on my side for a long time. No variances in the expenses, but in the other income expense section, there is that board-approved non-budget item, the last line item before the subtotal there. That is the golf carts that were approved, golf cart singular, right? That was approved for first services, purchased there. And then that same variance roughly carries to the bottom of about $12,000 unfavorable variance in the trust department. Okay, go to page 6. Page 6 is your rec area. The rec area has done quite well for the quarter. If you go straight to the bottom right-hand corner, just to spoil all the, leave with the end or whatever that phrase goes, $99,000 favorable to budget. That is made up of the excess revenues, if you look at the top section, of $245,000 spread amongst the categories. You can see events did very well. Very little was budgeted or expected to occur, and Matt and group pulled off some unexpected shows that did very well. So food and beverage also exceeded revenues by quite a bit. Quick eyeballing, that's almost 30%, which is fantastic. Great job, Andrew. And other clubhouse sales also. So one of the things that I only remind you of once or twice a year that I forgot about could be important is that we specifically name the expense categories to kind of mirror the revenue categories for the first 3 expense line items. Or actually, it's the 2nd through 4th expense line item matches the 2nd through 4th revenue line item. So if you take your eyes and jump back and forth between event revenue and event expense, you can do the comparisons of how those departments are doing, using quick head math. And if you look at the variance column, it's useful to say, well, events were $101,000 favorable to budget. How much expense did we incur to get that extra 101? Because if it's more than 101, it wasn't worth doing, right? So if you look at the variance there, it's only 91. So the extra events dropped $10,000 toward payment of your insurance, lights, electricity, staff, etc. So that's favorable. So you always compare those two quickly and see how we did, and then it may provide questions to ask the staff and management. But the good news is I did the test on food and beverage sales, and cost of goods sold is several notches, or basis points I call it, below what was budgeted. So it was a very good quarter. Hope we can continue that. Otherwise, going down the variances in the expense section, you can see that there's a pretty heavy variance in utilities. I'm told it's very hot summer and a lot of activity. You can see the activity in the sales figures. A lot more bodies than expected and were budgeted passing through on events, food and beverage, etc. So that's going to increase the utilities expense. So you can think of that increase or overage a little bit as a cost of bringing those revenues also, because they are variable. So we talked about the bottom line, and that's probably pretty good for that section. This is your biggest, though. Does anybody have any questions? Nope, okay. Page 7 and 8, I'll go quickly. Security, bottom right-hand corner. It's a positive $3,087. That is a favorable variance on the change in net assets. So that means blurring everything together, the variances were favorable to budget, and you're on plan. The largest item is that in that other administrative cost, you wouldn't know it, buried in the detail in one of those accounts, is that card decals were budgeted but not performed during the quarter. So that helped get that done. I don't know the status or timing of when that might be done, but we have the budget for it when it does occur. Page 8, bottom right-hand corner, $75,000 and change, favorable to budget. 75. I just wanted 1,000. The power of positive thinking, right?
We're
7,500.
keeping you on your toes today.
Thank you.
We're paying attention, baby.
No, I didn't, but I love it. I actually love it. My ego just went. Anyway, 7,500 favorable to budget. Again, touching on why there's a negative in the budget. This particular department had excess cash to roll over, so we budget a loss, meaning the cash that's sitting in the account was expected to be used to balance the budget, not additional assessment. So the fact that we're favorable to that is positive. It should continue that trend. Did you wish to say something, or have me say something? Right, and that's by covenant with the Security and Transportation Divisions, where the legal authority is actually driven from each individual homeowners association's declaration. It has language in there that says that thou shalt roll over excesses or refund it, which of course it would be a huge chore with 5,595 homes. So we roll it over. Any questions?
No question, I just have a comment when you're done.
I am done.
Okay. Not just because Randy's sitting next to me, but for all the other new board members, if you notice at the very bottom of every single page, it reads confidential, proprietary, for recipient only. These are not shared outside of the board. We share, upon request, the audited year-end reports, but we don't share the monthly quarter, so just keep that in mind, that these are for recipient use only. Otherwise, Ginger will have your head.
Thank you, Jack. You just reminded me that I need to point out about the note at the very bottom, not the very, very bottom, the note with the asterisks references the second line in the cash on the, we're talking about the first page of the report, sorry. The surplus cash from prior years, second line in cash, has an asterisk, and there's a note down here. It did change this quarter, and I did want to point that out so that you don't question it later. The what's it called? The Sound Club pool deck expansion project is well underway. As you know, $199,000 and change were used during the quarter. So the amount that is encumbered and therefore it used to be in the second row was reduced by that amount during the quarter. So that is why the variance for that line item is $199,170. Okay? So just failed to say that. So, but that note does always explain just what is encumbered from the total cash that is listed on that line. All right? Thank you.
Thank you, Dan. I will give my report. There are a number of people sitting in this room, including Officer Mary, that have been integral in putting together the disaster preparedness. And I would ask that all of you stand, including you, Shirley, because I know you worked on it. Mary Ann, I know you worked on it. Come on, stand up. I can't see who else is over there, whether Eileen worked on it, but there are a number of people. Jane, I know you worked on it from the master, I believe. Stay standing, because these people have put in an exorbitant amount of effort on the disaster preparedness. They put together the presentation that was attended by over 500 people. They are owed a great deal of gratitude from this community for what you have done in preparing this community for disaster preparedness.
We mustn't forget that the rack is produced by the master, and they have been absolutely wonderfully cooperative about producing that item, which is an excellent resource for our community to look at.
And I will tell you, the article within the wrap that was delivered earlier this week or late last week is very interesting reading. I agree, Mary Ann. And anybody who has the opportunity, if they didn't read the wrap, go back and read the article on disaster. But thank you all for all the work you have done. We cannot say enough to the insurance company who's not, USI, who's not here, for their involvement. And I wanted that recognized, that you folks have done an exorbitant amount of job in pulling together not only people from in the community, but also from outside the community. So thank you very much. I will hope for Officer Mary's benefit that we don't get a disaster coming in, because he is the one who will be the head in charge of the entire disaster recovery. And you have enough to do, Jeff, without basically having a hurricane come sweeping through this community. So for your benefit, I hope we don't get a disaster. You didn't hear Jim Gundry, but he said you have enough time tracking down golf cart thieves. With that, I believe there is no people signed up for open forum, correct? Then we will go to new business, and I'm going to call upon Ginger first to discuss the new tram and another item which she wants to discuss, which is the repair of the panel.
Thank you. Just a little background information. Tram replacement was originally budgeted for the trust for the last fiscal year, 21-22. If you recall, we ordered it last April or something, and just in part of all the other insanity in the world, we never got that. In the Federation Board motion of March 4th, the board approved transferring those budgeted funds to become encumbered. I'm just going to round the number for $65,250 to move it forward. So whenever the dead tram was ready and came in, we would have that money earmarked. Subsequently, on July 1st, the Federation Board accepted Vesta's recommendation and approved a motion to reduce the fleet down to 3 vehicles and go ahead and dispose of the 4th tram in the most economical method possible. We had already been a year with the tram not being utilized. We saw that we could still serve the residents. We were creating a little bit of efficiencies out there. The board thought that was a good idea, especially in this economy, because of all the costs that come along with that. It was also Vesta's recommendation to continue the regular replacement of the 3 remaining trams as to minimize repair and maintenance expenditure as these vehicles aged. So, Vesta is now proposing to sell the 2014 Ford 450 and the 2017 Ford E450. And between those, they have about 120,000 miles on them, and replace these 2 older high-mileage trams with a new 2021 Microbird E350. And this strategically, successfully accomplishes 2 objectives by selling the 2 highest mileage trams in the fleet, which are expected to have large repair costs, and secondly, to provide future savings in insurance coverage, some of which will begin upon trade-in during this current budget year. So, the budgeted earmarked amount was $65,250, and we have 3 vendor bids, and with the trade-in of $33,000, the Florida Transportation bid of $49,223.06 was our recommendation. So based upon the Federation Board's directive to earmark those funds and reduce the fleet in the most economical manner, that is Vesta's proposal to move with the immediate trade-in of those 2 older vehicles and purchase the microboard. That would leave $16,027 remaining encumbered in the surplus cash from prior year's account, which would be used at board discretion.
Is there any objection to Vesta's proposal? And I move that we ratify Vesta's proposal to purchase the new tram, which is less expensive, and use the two trams as she just described as trade-in value for those families.
No objection.
Do I have a second to the motion? Thank you, Rick. All in favor? Opposed? Then Ginger, you can proceed ahead and have the tram delivered. I do know, just for everybody's edification, so people will know that it is the new tram. It will be wrapped with the new logo on it, with the new design, the way it was set up. And it will be slightly smaller than the other trams, if I'm correct, because it'll be a 12+2 instead of a 16+2, the +2 being handicapped. And we have never really filled in the day-to-day operations a tram with more than 14 people, so.
This strategy can successfully continue to serve the residents in their current usage and needs, yes.
Then with that closed out, I will turn it over to Ginger for her second item.
Okay. So about that $16,000 you
Nothing lasts forever.
That was all 3 minutes ago. On July 25th, as Jack mentioned earlier, lightning struck the main clubhouse building and caused damage to the fire alarm and panel system. The alarm system vendor, VSC, was immediately called out to inspect the unit, and upon arrival, basically said it had all been fried. The BPS panel, the pull station in the indoor pool, the addressable monitor module, all damaged beyond repair, and replacement parts were needed. Due to the fire alarm panel and system being part of the fire safety plan of this building, we had to make, upon management discretion, the immediate replacement and repairs ordered and deemed an urgent situation, and replacement parts were ordered. While that panel was down, we made arrangements for security to be monitoring in case something sparked or went in the night. So we were covered on that, and our insurance agent was aware of that. It was also recommended by VSC to add a 120 VAC surge protector to the system. By adding this surge protection, it will lessen the chance of this issue in the future and help protect our alarm system and panel from possible future lightning damage. Additional electric repairs were needed to reinstall the panel and other equipment. So the bids we received were a total of $10,966.19, which includes the panel, the pull station, the monitor module, surge protector, and replacing 3 disconnects and the melted wiring. The Federation Board has the $16,000 earmarked. It's Vesta's recommendation to go ahead and consider that money rather than find another source for this unanticipated but necessary repair.
So seeing we had 65,000, and I'm rounding figures, 65,000 encumbered in our reserve for the tram, and the tram came in at about approximately $16,000 less, that we unencumber that $16,000 and use a portion of that, which is about $11,000, to pay for the panel replacement, and then any remaining money goes into regular surplus cash, and the encumberment on those dollars go away.
So you want the 5 moved to
It would just become
surplus,
it would
okay,
just become
instead of keeping it
regular
encumbered.
cash. Yeah, it wouldn't be encumbered because you wouldn't have anything to
I'll probably
encumber
find
it for.
something else to use it for.
That's what I'm afraid of.
Not that I'm looking, they just kind of
These
find
things,
me.
these
Let's
things
put it that way.
just happen. Is there,
Jack, I do have a question. The problem was we didn't have, I believe we didn't have a surge protector, an adequate surge protector. Has there been anyone, or do you know if we have adequate surge protectors on 2020 in the South Club?
We're asking now, they can't tell us over the phone, and it's a good question, and I said, wow, I'm not quite sure, so we are finding that out. As they've explained to us, and probably some of you, if you've ever had lightning damage in your home know, sometimes surge protection doesn't help on a direct hit. But we do have a lot of surges and brownouts here, you probably see them in your homes. That's where it's gonna really make the difference, I think. A direct hit can fry a surge protector as well, but it's about risk, you know, and offsetting as much as we can.
You're right, the surge protectors will also make equipment last longer
Yeah,
if they're not hit. The other question I have, I don't know what the insurance program is with deductibles on the property for these buildings, but is it $10,000 or more?
not more, I don't think, no.
So it's less than 10,000?
Yeah,
Have we made any effort to get a claim in for?
we're talking to them about that, I think, yeah.
And that money would just go
Doesn't
back
cover it,
into,
be in the deductible, yeah,
just go back into our cash, correct?
if we got something.
So I would move we unencumber the remaining 16,000, use, that money that becomes unencumbered, to repair the panel for the $11,000 and any remaining cash that just goes into regular surplus cash. Can I have a second to that motion? Thank you, Ray. Any other discussion? All in favor, say aye. Opposed? So Dan, you understand what we've done. We've basically unencumbered now the entire $65,000. Before we go on to the mulch contract, we received a letter from Brown's Tree, and it was discovered in a meeting that the landscape committee was having with Brown's Tree, that they had basically sold to a company called BTS Horticultural Services, which is already approved vendor within Kings Point. The word just went right out of my mind, fertilization of the palm trees. They have sent us a letter requesting that they be allowed to subcontract that work to the company they sold it to, which is required by contract before they can use a subcontractor. I would move that we approve their request to allow them to continue. Did you want to speak, or did you want to second the motion? You seconded the motion? Okay, so Shirley would second the motion. Any discussion? All in favor say aye. Opposed? So Steve, would you notify Brown's Tree that they have board approval to use their subcontractor for the fertilization of the ponds? Now the fun subject, which is our ever-present mulch contract that we have every year. There was a recommendation from the Lawn and Landscape Committee that we basically don't do a mulch contract this year and let every association handle their own spreading of the mulch. There was conversations amongst the board, and the recommendation was basically a accommodation to allow the associations who wanted to use a bulk contract with set pricing, and it is not based upon how much we order, it's based upon the set pricing, whether we have 10 associations use the mulch contract or we have 100 associations use the contract. We have worked with Southeast Spreading. In doing this, the mulch contract does not require any longer an association to utilize the mulch contract. If you want to purchase mulch from the mulch contract, there is a process and procedure for the association to do it. We have negotiated timeframes within the mulch contract that before they could deliver the mulch, they would have to give the association's board or contact person, POC, the day they were delivering it, and they have to provide at least 48 hours notice. Any change to that would have to be approved by the association point of contact, and they could not install the mulch without 48 hours notice, and that cannot be changed. So if an association decides to do it, those are the major changes, unless I'm wrong, Steve, is the use of the bulk mulch contract is voluntary. Yeah, there is no requirement that people have to use. They can go out and install their own mulch, make their own contract for mulch, but if they want to, the parameters have been set that the associations basically would approve the delivery of the mulch, the spreading of the mulch, and be able to purchase it the same way it has been purchased in the past. Am I basically summarized it fairly correctly?
Yes, that is correct. The goal is to try and increase the communication between the mulch delivery and the mulch installation so that the POC has at least 48 hours worth of advance notice to approve the receipt and to meet and approve the installation of the mulch. And again, like Jack said, you can opt out of the mulch contract. Just to give you an indication from a pricing standpoint, the pricing that we have locked in, which was the best pricing out of 3 estimates that we received from bulk, the cocoa brown mulch this year is up 6.5% over last year. Cypress mulch is up 13.4%. Pine bark up 14.9%. And then your red mulch and your gold mulch, believe it or not, are up 17.4%. So that's what you're looking at in terms of additional inflationary costs for your mulch pricing this year.
Next year, we will do, probably in the early spring, the board will send out a survey that asks the community if they want us to continue to do a mulch contract or they want the associations to individually take it over. I know it's a sore point every year with mulch. That's why the recommendation was to basically get rid of the mulch contract, but by making it voluntary and allowing associations to opt out and handing their own mulch, being able to get good pricing, whether we order 50,000 or 100,000 bags or we order 50 bags, the price doesn't change. So in the spring. Oh, yeah, they have the option is still available to have your mulch installed during the spring or fall. Could I have a motion to approve the mulch contract?
So moved.
Thank you. Second, you want to second it then, Shirley?
Sure.
Any additional discussion on it? All in favor of approving the proposed mulch contract? Opposed? Opposed? Hearing no opposition, the board has approved the mulch contract. We will work with Steve to set up a special membership meeting for their approval of the mulch contract. The contract will be available once the notice goes out for review in the president's mailbox. It is rather lengthy, and to send it out is rather difficult, so we will send out and develop dates for a special membership meeting, and you will get at least 10 days notice of the special membership meeting so we can get the process, if the membership approves the mulch contract, approved and get it in place so people that want to can start ordering it. That basically concludes our new business. I'm gonna call, Jeff, did you have something, good welfare? And then I will let, seeing he's Officer Mary Eileen, I'm going to let him go first. Besides, he has a gun on his waist, so.
I'll let Eileen go first.
Good morning. So I just wanted to come up here for just a moment today and number one, thank the board, thank the residents of Kings Point, and especially thank Denny. For those of you who don't know, this past Tuesday was National Night Out, and it was a national program where communities and law enforcement get together. And Kings Point hosted the Hillsborough County Sheriff's Office, also had some great food trucks, but we had 5 districts, and each of our districts was mandated to have an event. So District 2 had 15 people show up, citizens, residents. District 3 had like 9, and the other districts had less. So it was amazing that we came out and the residents came out. We had over 100 people come out and talk to the deputies and look at the motorcycles, and just a great event. And I definitely appreciate, again, the board allowing us to use the lobby, the residents, and Denny for setting it all up. I definitely appreciate that. So thank you, not only from me, but from also Hillsborough County Sheriff's Office. And then my second thing, this is Shelby Hillman. She is my brand new community service aide. Yes, I'm on number 4. Don't wish her good luck when I'm not around. So when you call the substation or go over there, she'll be the one to answer the phones, take your messages, initially help you, and try to keep me straight. So we welcome Shelby. Thank you.
Jeff, before you sit down, I, as representing the Federation Board and the community as a whole, would like to thank you for all the work you do in the community, day in and day out. Without you, we would probably be lost, and we really appreciate the effort you put in and the goodwill that you bring into the community from the Sheriff's Office. So thank you very much for all the work you do for us. And it was our pleasure to sponsor and hold the event here for you. It's a small way of paying back to you. So thank you very much for all you do. Eileen, I know you have some good and welfare that you want to impart.
You can go to that. If you want to, you don't have to. You can take it. Use that one.
It's safer back here.
Are you sure?
You could borrow Steve's Velcro sport coat. Kevlar.
Okay, this is just a brief announcement that Kings Point COA wishes to thank the Federation Board for the use of their office for the distribution of the 2022 Kings Point COA membership directories. Thank you very much. If you haven't seen what your office looks like right now, it's a mess, but we're getting it done.
We know that you'll put it back in the condition in which you found it.
Absolutely, because Jim told me he was going to inspect.
Uh-oh, you're in trouble. I will say that you approach the Federation Board. We don't use the office. It makes it a lot easier for you, and it just goes to show the community that we can work together as different groups. So you are more than welcome to use it. I know you want to use it up through the 15th. If you need it for a few more days, the board can make arrangements to accommodate that for you.
Thank you very much. We will have someone at the office, the Federation office, this morning following this meeting for presidents or their authorized representative to pick up the directories for their associations. We'll have someone there until 1 o'clock today. We will also be open on Monday at the Federation office, August the 8th from 9 to 1 for presidents or their authorized representatives to pick up their directories for their association. Or if those aren't going to work for you and you really need to, you can call the COA office at 633-1710 to schedule a time to pick your directories up. Also, just a reminder, the COA office is closed for the month of August. We do that every year, give the volunteers a break. But if you need a notary, you can call us and leave a message at 633-1710 to schedule an appointment, and we will meet with you at the COA office to take care of your notary. That's all. Thank you very much.
And if you don't want to bother the COA and make them come in, all they can do is walk into First Service, and First Service would provide notary service free of charge. Any other good? Hello, Barbara. It's good to see you.
There we go, okay, success. All right, as you all know, I'm Barbara Silvain, Nantucket 2 Condo Association. And I do have a question I'd like to direct towards Vicki. I've been here for going on 13 years, and somebody nice could say, oh, but you look far too young for that. But that's not necessarily the case. One thing that has preceded all meetings of boards, clubs, committees, unanimously, is a Pledge of Allegiance. And I've noticed that we have, for the first time in my 13 years, someone not participating. And I want to know why, because it's the one thing, we have lots here, a lot of issues that divide us. But the Pledge of Allegiance is one thing that we can typically get behind and show respect for our country. It's a unifying thing.
I am so glad, I'm really glad you asked the question. Could you read my shirt?
I already have.
No, could you read it out loud?
If you are neutral in situations of injustice, you have chosen to side on the oppressor.
Thank you. So, as an American, and anybody who's heard me sing God Bless America knows exactly how I feel about this country. I am horribly disappointed that women's rights and self-determination are being reduced. And I can do very little other than vote and attempt to express my disappointment in a nonviolent and appropriate way. I could kneel, I could walk out, I could stand there silently, but that wouldn't necessarily draw attention, which is why I'm thrilled that you did, because I realize that part of the problem with nonviolent protest is that sometimes you don't even know what the protest is. You have every right as an American to disagree with me on my stance, on the way I do it, and I appreciate that, and I respect that. And all I can do is the small bit that I can do to draw attention to what I think is a step towards fascism and the lack of freedom. And as a person who appreciates, my son was a Navy officer, went to the United States Naval Academy. And I did discuss it before I made my choice. And he said, that's why I joined, so that you would have the freedom to express yourself in my country. And so I appreciate your ability to express yourself. That's the little that I can do. I'm sorry if it offends anyone, but we all have to do what we all have to do out of patriotism. So.
Well, every day, pretty much every day in this country, I'm sure that there's, of our 5,590 some odd units, that there are people that take issue with a political outcome, a judicial outcome, and if that was a premise, no one would ever stand up and for the Pledge of Allegiance, ever.
And that's their choice.
Well, and here, I mean, I just think it's inappropriate to take this board and take our community and make it a premise for your personal activism. Because you're not representing Vicki up here. You're representing the Federation Board, and you represent my association. And this does not represent my association.
And I respect your views.
You can do what you want after duty, but when you are representing us and the Federation Board, I think it's hugely inappropriate.
Thank you for sharing.
Okay. Barbara, I would just like to add that Vicki's standing or not standing for the Pledge of Allegiance is her right to do. The board does not have the capability or authority to tell her to stand or not to stand. She is not representing the board. The board does not take a position on Vicki as an individual, and her belief or non-belief in what she wants to do from a personal perspective, that is her right to do so. So her standing does not represent in any way, shape, or form the opinions of the Federation Board, and she was advised of that.
Okay, but this isn't a personal platform, so I still stand by my revising.
Right. The polite thing is just to, the polite thing is just to be quiet. It's respectful. You're so right. The polite thing is to shut up.
Okay, I'm going to just totally change the subject.
Okay, if you,
Oh,
Lucy, yeah.
Lucy Malacus from Edinburgh. And first of all, I want to tell you, nobody would ever mistakenly take my golf cart because it is so magnificently made in blue, go blue. Unless I really, really love Michigan, like me. I want to just comment on what's going on with Vesta and all of the wonderful improvements that they're doing, including the South Club pool that I've gone over and taken some pictures.
Just don't dive into it right now.
I'm not planning on it. And I'm going to continue to do that weekly just to stave off all the naysayers on Facebook who are driving me insane. I think they've done a wonderful job, especially what they've done at the North Pool with bringing in the music and the food truck. I mean, I think that's just incredible. I think they've done a great, great job on that. With that being said, I think that the people that are going to the North Club, and it's a little more crowded, and I know you can't do anything about this, but I'm just going to say it. There just needs to be some common sense going on at our pool. Common sense by the people that are the guests or the residents that are using the pool, and by security, because they come up with some of the silliest complaints constantly. It drives me nuts. But I just want to say what a wonderful job I think you guys have done. Go please.
You don't know this, Lucy, and I'm telling tales out of school. Last Sunday, I was sitting in my living room relaxing, and in comes a text from Matt. And it says, "You're not going to believe this, but the food truck for the events we have scheduled at the North Club has just canceled due to family matters. It never stops in Kings Point." Matt, Denny, the entire Vesta crew, I appreciate the work you did in saying, oh well, on a Sunday afternoon, I guess we better go out and see if we can find a food service vendor. You wonder what Vesta does. Their job doesn't end when they go home. well after their end of the day. It works through the weekends, and I know you know them. And if you saw Matt's post, is my kids told me to stop working and spend a little time with them. But Matt, what you have done and your staff has done in trying to accommodate the closing of the South Club pool and doing entertainment things up at the North Club pool to make it a little bit more lively than it is as a general rule. I know there was a different clientele at the South Club pool and North Club pool. Trying to combine them together and make it an enjoyable experience. Thank you for all the effort you have put into it. I really appreciate it, Matt.
Hi, I'm Rich Resnick from Manchester, Florida, and I'm going to not touch this microphone. I want to talk a little bit about the way our HO6 policies are interplaying with the Kings Point Place Insurance. Because we run into a little bit of a situation. It was suggested to me that the most effective way, most cost-effective way to deal with the 5% hurricane deductible was for everybody to increase their loss assessment coverage on their HO6s. And that sounded like a great idea, and I emailed our residents, we have an email list, and I emailed everyone saying, hey, look, you're exposed to the tune of about $10,000, you might want to bump your coverage. Well, come to find out, and this applies to a number of our residents in addition to me personally, that our carriers will not increase that coverage beyond the state mandated $2,000. So normally, okay, find a new carrier. Now, in Manchester, Florida, our roofs are 17 years old. And I shopped my policy this year. It just renewed. In fact, the renewal date is about a week ahead or a week from now. Nobody would touch it. Even though it's an interior policy only, an HO6, if your roof is over 15 years old, it is not going to, nobody wants to write a new policy for that. I had no choice but to go with Universal Property Casualty, who's writing my policy now. And I'm finding, again, the residents that are getting back to me, it's the same story. We don't want to replace our roofs for 3 more years. And we had an informal inspection and everything is in pretty good shape, so we think we can do that. But in the meantime, we are really, really exposed. Those that are with carriers that will not increase that loss assessment coverage, we're really exposed if there's a major storm that comes through. And it makes me uncomfortable, and it's making some of our residents uncomfortable. And the reason I'm mentioning it in a public forum is because I suspect we're not the only association with older roofs and might have this similar problem. So just wanted to make the board aware that not everybody can increase their loss assessment coverage. Thank you, that's all.
If I could comment on that, there is, you're right, all the carriers do not do that. For anyone that has Allstate, they will do it. And I did increase it from 2,000. There is no mandated limit at 2,000. That is what the state requires that you must have to write an HO6 or HO3 policy. But you can increase it. At least Allstate will do it. The roof issue is going to become more and more of an issue in the state because of laws. And I don't know what else to tell you besides that. It's unfortunate, but for those of you who don't have the roof issue, I can tell you Allstate will write them. I paid $39.40 for that increased coverage, which is pretty doggone cheap.
Yeah, and as you know, I have not made a big secret about thinking that we probably should look at reducing that deductible a little bit, given the higher cost. I understand the higher cost, but I also understand the degree that some residents are exposed, and I don't think all of them realize how exposed they are.
No offense, but to decrease that deductible, you're probably adding $1 million to the cost of the policy. if the residents want to pay $1 million a year more for reducing that, especially knowing that you're going to get an increase next year, we'll be more than glad to entertain getting a policy with if the insurance company will do a lower percentage in the current marketplace, we'll be more than glad to turn it over to the residents and say, you want a lower deductible, but you are going to pay a considerable amount of money for that lower deductible. And I'm sorry, but a lot of residents in this community cannot afford another $1 million on top of the policy just to lower the deductible. It is a risk management that the residents have to look at. We don't know, we do know that there's two things that are gonna happen. The price of the value, replacement value of the cost of this community is going to go up to almost $1 billion. And the cost per $100, which we currently pay about 50 cents, may go to about 60 cents or 65 cents per $100. You take that against $1 million, so your price is going way up. You're going to have a huge cost for insurance, and as Ray said earlier, there are very few companies that are going to have the capability of insuring a $1 billion property community. So you're kind of stuck between a rock and a hard place, and the question is where you go. And I'm not making fun of you, Richard, in any way, shape, or form. It is a problem that is confronted across the state of Florida. We have companies, insurance companies, that are going bankrupt every day. Demotech just came out with between 17 and 27 insurance companies that are downgrading to below an A-. Fannie Mae requires at least an A-. So that is basically going to put sellers and buyers in a bind because of the ratings of these insurance companies because of their financial situation, even if they stay in business. Where do you go? It really becomes a good luck in trying to find someone. Fortunately, your current property provider is not one of the companies, to their knowledge, as of right now, that they're being downgraded. And they have provided, I will tell you, our biggest fear is the roofs in this community, whether it's in the historic district or the older roofs. When they do reappraisal, which we have to have done, what are they going to do with those roofs? And right now, every roof in Kings Point is insured for 100% replacement. We hope that will continue through the 23-24 year. We don't know. You can't tell where the insurance company is going. But I understand your concern. I really do.
Jack, there should be some other things. Some of you have caught, I just retired from the insurance industry on Monday of this week, which tells you I've already can't figure out what day of the week it is. Hurricane is a problem. Whether the rates go up for that or not, I don't know. You're really talking about windstorm. But 3 companies yesterday were downgraded by the rating bureaus, 2 of which I don't know. One is Universal. So they will drop below an A rating. And typically when insurance companies drop below A ratings, they're out of business very soon. These are called takeout companies. Almost every company that writes insurance in Florida for property are takeout companies. And takeout companies means they go to citizens and they select the best policies they can. They run them for about 4 or 5 years when the state covers all their claim costs. And then if they're not run by really good insurance people, they go bankrupt. Meanwhile, the insurance executive goes away with multiple millions of dollars, and policyholders go back into citizens. And that will happen a great deal in the next couple of years. I know I'm nothing but bad news, but I represent the insurance committee, so what are you gonna get?
Any other comments, concerns, questions? Seeing none, I will entertain a motion to adjourn. Second, all in favor, say aye.